That's your story. That's how I open it up. That's you, Cheryl. That's your cue.
That's me. Well, I'll use Sylvia's line because when she spoke. Which story do you want? Oh, the swimming story.
We'll go swimming. Sure.
Oh gosh, I wasn't a swimmer growing up. I went to the water and I could swim, and I didn't drown as a kid, but I never, I didn't grow up on a swim team.
Right.
When I was in high school, I joined the swim team as a freshman. There was this cute boy, he was a junior, and I was like, I think I'll join the team. I hated it. Like, it was awful. Like swimming in a lane with people, and I was slow to death. I was awful. And, they put me in the 500 race. That was like, okay, that's your race. And it was awful, when you see the lane line in the pool, like flip 1, 2, lane count. I don't remember what race it was, but there was one race I was in, and, I was either going to finish last or second to last. And I just remember this kid from St. John's Prep. It was an all boys school, just always next to me, right? Like in front of me, I could see him, see his feet, he'd flip, I'd flip. And I just remember the last 2 laps, like somebody saying to me, just move. And I remember just swimming my hardest, like no breath, like flipped right after him. And then like I beat him. And I was like, yes, second to last, but that's okay. I did it. And then I quit because like the boy I thought was cute didn't want anything to do with me. Like, and I was like, this stinks. Like I'm getting planted water on my feet. I'm in the pool, like blah. I quit. And I didn't get back in the water until I was 50. And, someone suggested that I try a triathlon. So I tried this sprint it was in New Hampshire, National New Hampshire, the YMCA. It was a big fundraiser, and it was a 12-mile bike and a run and a 300-yard swim, and I buy a wetsuit. That was an event trying to put that thing on, but we're there the day of the event, and we're all standing in line, and they're calling you based on your ability, where they seed you, and I'm like in the back, and we get right on the dock, about to walk down and finish, and my friend looks at me. She goes, "Your wetsuit's on backwards." I was like, "What? The zipper doesn't go in the front?" Like, you're an idiot, right? Like, So I'm standing there, I had to like take this thing off really quick, like turn it around, put it on. And then I jumped in and I like panicked, and I didn't want to be near anybody. So rather than stay in the crowd, I'm way out around the circumference. So, what was probably 300 yards was 500. Don't know. But it was just very uncomfortable, very unsettling, people all around me. And then I finished and it felt good to finish. And then I jumped on a bike, and then I, finished the bike and ran. And when I was done, I was like, well, that wasn't fun. Right? Like, I just don't like to run. I'm not a runner. And so I did a couple of more triathlons. Like I did an Olympic level, which was, a little bit longer swim, a little bit longer bike. And then it was a 10K run. And at the end of the 10K run, I'm like, I'm done. Never, like, if you see me running again, I'm being chased. That's it. Like, I'm being chased because it's just the most uncomfortable thing in the world. So then I changed to an aqua bike that fall, and I did the swim in the bike, and that was cool. That was okay. But I have this fear in the back of my head, and it's my own fear. Like, I have a fear I'm going to get hit by a car when I'm riding a bike. Right. And I have a friend who says to me, "Aren't you afraid of getting eaten by a shark?" I'm like, "Listen, dude, I got a lot less chance getting eaten by a shark than you do getting pegged off by some distracted driver on the highway on your bike." Right. She's like, good point. So that was 2017, right? So, right. Yeah, that year. And then the last part of the season, I participated in an event at another YMCA, and it was a 2-mile swim. Well, they were all different distances. And I'm like, I'll do the 2 miles. What the heck? With a group of people I knew who were, again, way faster than me, right? Like, they're all sitting there having coffee, finished, and I'm, trying to make the last loop. But I did it. It was, it was fun. I was slower than death. But I met an amazing person. I met Bob Fernald, and he's been my swim coach ever since, right? I had no idea what the Triple Crown was. I had no idea about anything, but I was like, hey, this guy like is interested in swimming. And so that kind of began the journey. So in 2018, I put on a wetsuit and started swimming and trained and went up and did the Kingdom Games, did the 10K. You know, and back then I thought 3 hours in the water was forever, right? Forever. You know, I'm swimming in a lake. Bob's on a party boat with another guy who's the husband of a friend of mine who decided she'd train with me. Little did I know she used to be a swim coach at UNH, right? I'm like, why is she's just so flipping fast. So, you know, after I swam for like 3 hours, he's like, all right, you've done 3 hours. That's great. And I thought, I can never go 1 minute longer. Like this. And I was in a full, you know, full wetsuit. So we went to the Kingdom Games and I swam, and it was incredible. Like I had never done anything like that before, right?
Which distance did you do?
The 10K.
10K, okay.
And, you know, you meet up with a kayaker who I had never met before. And I'm like, does she know what she's doing? Does she understand what she's doing? Like my life's in her hands. Like little did I know, you know, she was part of like the folks from Boston with, you know, Boston Light. Like she knew so much more than me, right? You know, here I am, panicked. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I know that my stroke wasn't great because maybe the last mile, I had a real problem with my left shoulder. And I was watching people that were just, you know, swimming by me just because all of a sudden I slowed down and it was just so much pain in my shoulder. And I finished and I was amazed I finished. It was great. It was fun. You know, wound up in PT saying, what's wrong with my shoulder? And it was, you know, I've learned over the last couple of years, it's just perfecting my stroke because I haven't had a problem since, you know, thank God.
Right.
So I did that 10K, and then a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go to Barbados to swim 10K there. And I'm like, sure. I'll go. Sure. I'm like, you know, if I'm going to swim, I want to swim in like nice places, right? So my husband and I went down with a group of folks to Barbados. And was it Barbados? Yeah, Barbados. And it was the first time, so I was going to swim in the ocean, right? Not a lake. Had never done that before. Without a wetsuit, because I thought I can't wear a wetsuit. It's 200 degrees down there, right? We had a woman who was kayaking, like to support, because some of you probably have done this race. It's the, you know, the Barbados Open Water Swim Festival. You got to feed yourself, and it's when I started to realize there's way more to open water swimming than just swimming, right? So it was 6 loops, right? So what I learned at the end of it was 6 loops, and I had some infinite nutrition feed, which didn't go well. It came up more than it stayed down. So I was puking the whole way, right? Yeah. And when I get to like the last loop, I say to my friend in the kayak, she said, do you want a piece of Stacy's banana? And I'm like, no, I don't want to take her food. She's like, Cheryl, she's been done for 2 hours. Right? Like I'm horrified, right? And I had a little banana. Okay, fine. Then I finished. And back up the night before, we were all having dinner, and this one guy who does triathlons a lot, I had just met him while we were there, talking around the table, and he's like, so what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, oh, I'm going to swim the 10K. By yourself? Like all at once? And I said, yeah. He goes, wow. And I just looked at him like, why? He goes, well, I wouldn't have expected that. I'm like, why? Because I'm like a middle-aged housewife? Like, shut up. Like I got kind of pissed, right? Yeah. Like, I'm going to try it. And then I didn't say anything, right? I didn't get upset, right? No judgment. I found that he pulled out and DQ'd because he couldn't make it because he was trying the same event. I'm like, yes. I didn't say it out loud. Yeah. Karma. And what's interesting is, so we got out of the race, and then my husband and I had some plans set up to like go tour the island, not even understanding what I just put my body through. So I change my clothes, I get in a cab, and we're driving around the island, and I haven't eaten anything.
Oh gosh.
And I start getting sick. I start getting like dehydrated. I'm getting weak. I'm like literally pulled over at this little store, like don't even know if it was safe, right? Anything they could give me, bottles of water. We finally found a hotel. I was chowing on pizza, like not even realizing what I put my body through, right?
Yeah.
When I finished, I had called Bob back at home, and I said, so we triaged, and he's like, all right, based on what you told me you ate versus what you didn't keep down, et cetera, you probably only took in 500 calories. Like, right. No wonder you didn't pass out, right? So again, you know, a teaching moment. So then I finished that, and I was like, all right, what's next? He's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. Start doing all this research. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to swim, I'm going to swim some fun places. So I reached out to Sylvia, and I'm like, what about Tahoe? And my husband's great. He's like, is there a golf course? Golf course, right? So that's our laugh. Like I'll say to him now when I swim in Bermuda, honey, do you want to go to Bermuda for a long weekend? He's like, why, is there a swim? I'm like, well, yeah, but it's only a few hours, right?
It's right next to a golf course.
It's right next to a golf course. So yeah, so I decided to do Tahoe. And and I trained in a couple of lakes in New Hampshire. I remember Bob saying to me, all right, I need you to do 3 hours in the pool. And I said, you want me to do 3 hours in a pool? Like back and forth, really? I don't know how I'm going to do that. And his line was, well, how bad do you want it in the summer? And that was my motivation. Like, oh, I've got to do this, that, right? And I did. Like I did what he told me, right? That's it. Like whatever he told me to do blindly, I did. And I still do today, right? He'll tell me you need to do this. I don't even ask why, because I know why he's just going to like roll his eyes at me, right? and I can't, like I don't second guess it. It would be like any of you telling me, it would be like Caroline telling me I have to sit in a bucket of ice for 4 days if I'm going to try and do the North Channel. Okay, you did. I guess I have to listen to you, right? I just, I listen to all of you folks, and I just listen and I absorb a lot, right? Because I'm the newbie. So we got to Tahoe about a week early. Hydrate, sleep. I guess the altitude was fine for me. And I met Sylvia and Brian the morning of at the boat. And going from where we stayed in South Tahoe, like down in the busy section, and then you got to drive that road in the middle of the night to go over to meet them. Like that was more horrifying than the swim.
Which course did you do?
We did the width.
The width. And yeah, it was, it was like, okay. And Brian had a great way of making me less nervous. Like, okay, let's talk to you about everything. And then off we went, right? And like, I still can't, all I remember was, you get all the rules and I'm swimming and I got my eyes closed. I'm swimming and the next thing, bang, I swam right into the boat. And everybody on the boat's laughing. And I was like, and Brian looked down, he goes, yeah, I saw you coming. I just hit the boat. And I was like, and I was startled. And then all I could think about was, am I disqualified? Like I touched the boat. And then I find out after, no. It's like, you have to, like, not if you run into it. It's, if you like ask for assistance. But anyways, yeah, that was like the big joke. And I just kept swimming. And, when Bob, my husband was on the boat, Bob, my coach, was on the boat, and I have a dear friend, Andrea, who's my kayaker, who I've got to tell you, she finds a line second to none, right? Like without her, I would never be able to make it the way I do. And, he hands me a bottle and he's like, this is your last feed. And like, it all of a sudden hit me like, oh my God, I'm almost 12 miles across. And like, I started this 2 years ago. Wow.
And I remember swimming up to the shore and I can't even see out of my goggles because I am just crying, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Tell us what it felt like. How did it feel when you finished?
Like I could do it, right?
Yeah.
I'm really successful professionally. I lack a lot of confidence personally.
Yeah.
So the fact I did it, I was like, wow, right? But then again, I get back in the boat and I'm swimming across and I'm like, okay, yeah, but that was no big deal. There's still people that do 25 miles and 20.
Right. Yeah.
right back into that. It's got to be better. It's got to, I got to do more. But it was just like, Tahoe was just amazing, right? It's just an amazing place. The water was amazing. I'm so grateful that the current, whatever you want to call it, there, it was flat, right?
Yeah.
Like if I could have picked the perfect first experience, that was it. Like I didn't get sick, nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was a time along the way I got nervous because Brian got on the back of the platform to feed me. And I'm thinking, why is he coming? Like my people. And it was warm and some caffeine. I was like, this, okay. And I guess, it's your crew that watches you and knows. And, but it was good. It was really good. So I finished and we came home and, then we went to, Bermuda. I went with Alyssa. I was like, Alyssa, do you and Tom want to go to Bermuda? And she's like, yeah, we're going. I'm like, all right, we're going to join. And we did the Around the Sound, in Bermuda. And again, I say I swam with Alyssa. I started with her and then, she finished and I came in, half an hour, 45 minutes later. And that was fun. That was hard. Part of it, like the wind picked up and the chop and like they didn't give you any fuel. So, I had Infinite that I had made really thick, stuck in little goo packs, like in my bathing suit,
Mhm.
and then you'd stop and you drink the water else they gave you. So that was a lesson in fueling, right? Like every time I do something, I learn something, and
Right.
because it's like, oh, why did I feel that bad? Or, oh, how come this? So that was fun. So then for 20, I submitted my name to try one of the bridges in New York, and I was really excited. I was like, oh, great, this is gonna be awesome. And I also signed up to do a swim with Phil. I couldn't do Border Buster because my kid's schedule always comes first. Like my daughter's lacrosse comes first. I'd rather be on the sidelines watching her because, she'll be off and gone long before I'm done swimming. So,
How old's your daughter?
she's 14,
14.
and my son is 13. And, I remember you said something when I listened to your podcast, thinking about swimming, and you're like, if I can deal with motherhood, I can deal with swimming. And I thought about that, and like, that is my new mantra, because there's times when my daughter and I get into a test of wills, right? And a week or so ago, she was really frustrated with me and yelling and screaming. And I thought, really? Like, oh my God, I could swim the English Channel with my eyes closed compared to this, right? Because
it's really hard. Yeah. When you're...
This is hard, right? This is hard. This is someone else. It's another person. You have to listen. And I'm like, oh, bring it on. I don't care how cold and how many jellyfish. Like that's
nice, Mom.
Oh, my daughter's on. So yeah, it was a good perspective. It was a good perspective. Anyways, I was kind of excited to do some longer distances, and then, then COVID hit, right? And COVID hit. And so I didn't want to stop swimming. I didn't want to, I'm like, what can we do? Like, what can we do to keep me moving in the right direction, right? Because I've got a goal today. I've got a goal next year. And I'll back up. So a year and a half ago, I was fortunate. I got an endless pool in the house because I can't still today, I can't get the time in the water at the local Y's that I need to do the training that I want to do. So I bought an endless pool. Didn't know COVID was going to hit. So fortuitously, how lucky am I? So I swim. That's it. I swim. And swimming in like turbulence, like at a pace, like after 2 or 3 hours, I'm like, why do my shoulders hurt so much? Well, because I'm swimming against the current, right?
Yeah.
I honestly think that has helped me when I go with a bunch of crazy people over to Hampton Beach in the summer, and I'm in the waves. I mean, I'm swimming with like, Bob Fernald and Alyssa and, Susan Leopold Knight, who, forget it, right? She's gone before I put the cap on. And John Gale and, all those people. It's like, it's so much fun. So I'm like, what do we do? And, fortunately we were able to pivot. And so this past summer, I said to Bob and Andrea and my husband, and like, what about Newfound Lake? And I've always wanted to swim in Newfound Lake. 3 years ago, there was an organization that started a marathon swim. It was a fundraiser. It's called Swim with a Mission. And, all different, there's relays, there's a 10K, and Vera, 3 years ago, the first year, Vera was, she swam the 10K. And I remember Phil, not Phil White, Phil Taub, who runs this. He's telling me the story of this woman from New Hampshire reached out and said, my daughter would like to swim this. And he thought at the time she was like 12, no, she was 13.
Right.
There's no way. There's no way I'm letting a 13-year-old compete in the first year of this event. If it goes bad, right, this event will never take off. And I guess the story goes, Darcy said, can I show you her times? He looked at her times and he said to his buddies, oh my God, she swims faster than we do. Yes, we'll let you, but you need to kayak right next to her. Right. And, and every year I wanted to participate, but my daughter has a lacrosse tournament in Stowe, Vermont. And again, that's priority. What about Newfound Lake? So I reached out to Phil, who, he has a house on the lake. I'm like, tell me about the lake. And a friend of mine, JR, lives on the lake. And I said, do you want to be on the crew? So, off we went. And Guy Davis, who I just love with all my heart, he said he would observe for the Marathon Swim Federation. And, we planned, and there was this horrible storm the night before. And we were like, do we go? Do we not go? Do we call it? What do we do? And Evan was great because I wanted to make sure I knew the rules of Marathon Swim Federation. How do you map out the way? And he helped me do it. And he said, it has to be at least a 10K. So you have to go this way around this island because you need to get to 10K. And I said, well, I want to try and I'm going to go back and forth. He goes, oh, okay, well then that's a lot easier because, you're at 12 point something miles, right? He's like, oh, you're going to do it Sarah Thomas. I'm like, yeah, out and back, right? So we did. We went out and back. And I remember getting to Hebron Beach the first way and getting out and just saying to myself, oh, all I got to do is go back.
Wow.
That's it. All I got to do is turn around and go back. And I changed goggles, right? I took some, untapped maple with a little caffeine and I was like, let's go. But we decided at 8:00 the night before that we were going to go. We looked at the weather. Is there a break in the weather? Should we go? Because I thought I don't want to cancel this. Like, when can we do it again? Right?
Yeah.
I had a plan to go to the channel. So he's doing his own training. So we were like, heck with it. Let's just do it. So we left at 5 a.m. And I don't realize like the last, I don't know, half an hour, maybe, like I'm swimming and I got Bob's on the boat and my friend JR and my husband and Andrea and Andrew's in the kayak and they're yelling and I can't hear because I've got my, the silicone and they're like, swim. No idea that the storm's behind me, right? No idea. Thunder and lightning, like nothing. And they all said that we were not pulling you out after. It took me 8 hours and 40 minutes. And they were like, we were not pulling you out with 30 minutes left. That would not have been a good day, right? So I come up and I finish. And what I didn't realize is Phil captioned it on video and he kind of used it as propaganda for the virtual month of the Swim with a Mission.
Cool.
I get home at night and it's on WMUR. Oh, really? In a bathing suit? Seriously? Did you really have to put that on TV? Like, but I didn't realize until I could hear the thunder in the background, right? And the lightning and the rain. So it's pretty cool. So we finished that and I was like, what's next? I couldn't go to Memphis Magog with Phil. Looking around, I'm like, what about Lake Sunapee? Right? Lake Sunapee's longer. It's 8 miles one way. So it was 16 miles. So what do we do? July 1st was the Newfound Lake. And then August 19th, I'm like, can I do it? Like, can I train? Can I swim? Can I rest enough? And we planned and we did it. And this time the logistics were a little bit more crazy because thank God I knew somebody who had access to the private slip for the boat that we could put our boat in the night before. I had to get a permit from the state. I had to call the local town police because the town's so small. It would be like, who's out there at 3 a.m, 4 a.m. And I'll never forget, we're sitting in the motel the night before. So there's Alyssa. So God love her. She was my observer. And oh my gosh, this woman takes notes like nobody's business, right? I'm like, oh, of course you're a curator. You work in a museum. You document everything. Like this much paperwork, like unbelievable. Was driving our little boat, and Bob and Andrea's like, I can't kayak for 12 hours, right? Because we figured it would take me longer. So my daughter offered to do it. And again, that was probably the second most wonderful time swimming. The first of when I came up on Tahoe, but the second, I look over and there's my, at the time, 13-year-old, and she's kayaking. And, she's sitting there with her butt in the kayak, but her feet are up on the top, right? La, 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 right?
Yep.
And the funny thing is when we get done the first time, she's like, Mom, that's great. I said, yeah, that's 8 miles. She goes, oh, Garmin says you went 8.2 or 8.3. And I said, listen, more is not better. Okay. like you need to get me from point A to point B. Like, did you learn in math, the distance between 2 points is a straight line? She's like, oh. I'm like, so listen to Andrea, listen to Bob when they tell you to, stay straighter. So off we went, but we're sitting in the motel the night before, and I love my husband. He's a science guy, right? He's got a master's in zoology, and he says, well, I'm thinking about your Tahoe swim, and I'm thinking about your Newfound swim. So if you swim at the same pace for this lake, it's going to take you 12 and a half hours. And I freaked out. I was like, stop. Because I looked on the wall and there's a clock, and I just envisioned the minute hand, like, all the way around. I was like, there's no flipping way I'm swimming 12 hours. Just don't say that. I gotta go to bed. And I leave and I go to bed. And oh my God, I had the worst nightmares all night. The worst nightmares, right? So anyways, I get up, okay, have my breakfast, ready, set, go. Fast forward, it was longer than 12 hours. It was 12 hours and 40 minutes. it didn't seem that long, but I was like, okay, here's the deal. Like till death do us part, and you shall never talk about time again. Ever, 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 ever. We got caught in a rainstorm and I didn't realize it was raining. And I thought, wow, it's easier to swim than it is to be on the crew. Way easier, right? Because I'm just swimming, right? Guys are dealing with the weather and, boats going by and jet skis and, who might be feeling sick or who's bored to death. I set my daughter up. I was like, okay, if you get bored sitting there, here's how you can use my iPad if you need to get a passcode because you want to watch TikTok. She didn't do anything. She was so engaged in the whole process, never even needed downtime.
Wow.
Yeah. And I came up on the shore, and I can't remember the woman you had on a while ago that I listened to. She was a competitive swimmer and she lives over in the West Coast. And she said the difference between open water and, let's say the Olympics or college swimming, when you're done there, it's the big rah-rah cheer. With open water swimming, you're done. You get to the beach, you got two people that says, that's great. Okay, you want to help us put the boat in the water, go home. That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
My son had come up because he wants no part of it. I'm like, there's no way. I'm not sitting on a boat for any length of time. Ex-husband had brought him up to the shore back at Newberry. So he was there when I came in. But it was cool. It was, again, I got up and I was like, like I did this, and, yeah. So it's just, I don't know, for me, it's just like it's just incredible. And I could never do it without my team. Absolutely never.
Right. Yeah.
Never.
So just to, I guess, recap, circle back, clarification, you started with the 300 in your triathlon, and then you went to 2 miles, and then you went to, so you're making pretty big jumps. How are you, and you've got a coach that's giving you some guidance on how to train for it. But what was, I guess, how did you kind of have the courage to, even I guess I'm thinking specifically about that first jump from 300 yards to 2 miles. How do you make that jump?
I don't know. I got tired of being in the pool, right? So there's like this small group of people that swim, and it's not a master's group, but it's like the triathletes, right? And I come to after 2 of them used to swim competitively in college. They'll do 200, I do 100, and I finish after them. I get tired of being the last person. I get tired of being in events where I couldn't build my confidence. I couldn't head around that, right? So I realized that in these open water, longer distances, not as many people do it, right? So I'm not competing. I'm not racing, right? I'm not jumping in the water, with you saying, let's go do a 10K at Memphremagog or Border Buster and see who wins, right?
Right.
Mindset. So that mindset works for me because I'm competing against myself.
Yeah.
And when I did the 10K in 18, and then I said to Bob, can we do Tahoe? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, the next year I want to do in Search of Memphrey. He goes, it doesn't work that way. I go, why? I did 6 to 12. He goes, listen, grasshopper. That's what he calls me. He's like, you can't go 12 to 24, right? Or maybe you can, but, so Phil had wanted me to swim a 16 or a 19 or something, before saying, yes, you can try, something. But I think that's it, Shannon. I think it's, I don't have to feel the failure of racing with somebody else. I mean, the other one thing I didn't say is I got asked to be in a relay up at Mont Tremblant for Ironman. That in 18, first Ironman event I had ever been in. So I'm doing the swim. A friend of mine does the bike. Another friend of mine does the run. And I'm at the starting line. And I remember calling Bob saying, should I wear my wetsuit? Because this water is okay. And he said, listen, it's a race. Everybody's in a wetsuit, put it on, right? I realized I went a lot faster, but I'm there and they delayed the race for an hour because of fog. So everybody's standing on the beach of this lake on the shore, waiting an hour for the fog to clear. Like you couldn't see the buoys, you couldn't see the kayakers, you could see nothing. And then they just pushed everybody off, right? People were getting kicked in the head, hit in the face because you didn't know where the turn was. And I'm in the middle just slogging along. And I came out and I finished and I ran as fast as I could because I knew I don't have to do anything else. I'm done.
Right.
And at that point I said, never again. I towed the line with 2,500 people, 2,700 people. I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah. I
this
don't
is
get
stupid.
that
This is
Ironman
not
mentality.
Yeah. It's great for some people. It's not for me. And so I guess my challenge is how much further can I go?
Can I do this? And, Bob keeps telling me the only thing stopping you is fuel, right? And training and endurance.
Yeah.
So
That's great. That's awesome. Which do you have a swim that you're most proud of? I know you've mentioned a couple that you're pretty proud of, but is there one that's more than another?
I would say Tahoe because it was the first one that I dared to do. But I would say Sunapee because Sunapee we had to create the swim ourselves. It had never been done before. Again, thanks for Evan, right? And giving the map, right? We had to do all things related. I mean, when it was Tahoe, I just show up. You pay a fee, you show up, and Sylvia and Brian got it, right? And I'm still the way with most of these, the channel are everywhere. This was, who do I get for an observer? What does that look like? Organize a boat, organize the fuel, get a kayaker. I mean, all things, right? And then after having to put everything together. So I think it was pretty cool to be able to coordinate all that, and get a crew that said yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I look forward to, I've a few things I've tried to materialize, but I think that would be really fulfilling to kind of make your own swim. So that's awesome. You also make the swimming part sound really easy. Like, oh yeah, and then we get to the other side and then we just swim back to the other side. So when do you ever have the mental kind of demons kicking in halfway through anything?
Oh yeah. They're less when I have to go from point A to point B, right? It's just you swim and it's what you see and it's the journey. That's why I think once I got to one side, I was like, oh, all I got to do is go back. Like there's a destination. Like, I'm in the pool doing laps. Oh my God. If it wasn't for having someone next to me or, Bob saying, let's move. I used to, I swear, probably be a prison guard somewhere in Russia, right? He's like, let's move. I would probably want to just get out of the pool and be like, I don't want to swim anymore, right? Or when I'm in my endless pool, like, I don't want to do this anymore. So when I'm just swimming, part of my story, which I don't, it's on my Facebook page if you can look, but I got sober in 2012, right? So I stopped. I was an alcoholic, a very high functioning, successful alcoholic. When I swim, so I've been sober for 9 years. I just swim in gratitude. Like if I didn't stop drinking, I would never be doing this, right? Never. I didn't think about sport. So it's the gratitude of look where I am today. Look how far I've come and look what I'm doing. For me, just amazing that I'm out here.
Yeah.
And I look at my daughters to my right. And that I have the physical well-being to do it, right? That I didn't kill myself physically to do that. I didn't try my first triathlon until after I was sober for 5 years. Right. So I did it. I tried a Tough Mudder. Oh my God. I did it. Like, yeah, check the box, did that, never do that again. But I just started saying, okay, like, what can I do? Right. And I think that's really what motivates me. It's the gratitude for my life today and the ability to do it. Right. I was at Magog and there was a man who went down to swim. He had like no legs and small arms. I'm like, he's getting in the water. Like, so if I want to complain because my shoulder hurts, really? Like, suck it up and swim. So. Yeah.
Gratitude. I love that. Swimming in gratitude. How's the pandemic been for you?
It's been okay. It's exhausting. We run a company. We've got 40 employees. We're fortunate we haven't had to lay anybody off.
That's great.
Nobody in my immediate household has been sick. My kids are in school at a school that's a private school, and they are back in school full time since September. But it's exhausting, with, life on life's terms and people, everyone feels differently about the pandemic and how they have to manage it and just trying to keep everybody on the beam. It's tough. It's different.
Yeah. It's been a long haul for sure.
Yeah.
Or it continues to be.
It does. It does. I remember in last May when people were saying, oh, I hope the kids are back in school in September. I'm thinking, you're crazy.
I know.
Now I'm like, I hope the kids go back to school next September, right? I hope spring. And I hope there are some swimming events next summer.
Right.
But it's just, I just wake up every day and say, okay, let's just get through today.
Yep, exactly. One day at a time.
Because there's really no other good alternative. You can't complain about it.
Right. Yeah. What about any ideas how we can include more people in the sport? Do you feel like there's any lack of inclusion in marathon swimming?
I think it's bringing more awareness to it, right? I think people are afraid of it. You know, oh, like where we are, oh, you swim in the ocean, like what's out there, right? And I think it's just really talking more about it and being inclusive, right? Inviting people. I mean, all the time I'll say to people, come with us. I can't do that. Sure you can, right?
Yeah.
Want to try it, right? Just try it.
Yep.
You know, and get with a group of people, at least where I swim and what I see from the whole community. Like there's no competitive nature. I mean, sure, I'm sure everybody is competitive on their own, but it's more inclusive than anything. Right?
Yeah.
And you show up and you know what the expectation is. And I think the people that you swim with do a good job to understand what your level of experience is and expertise. You know, and they judge that with, okay, like I would love to keep swimming all winter. I'm not prepared to swim all winter this year. You know, we got in as low as probably 49. I had Alyssa pushing me out of the beach. Our last swim, I said, I think I'm having a problem. She said, okay, rescue swim, hold on. We're literally 500
Wait, Mom,
yards.
you're forgetting about the time when you took Boleyn and I to the boat dock.
Okay, go on mute. I took my daughter and her friend to the boat dock and said, could you please stand here and watch? Because I'm going to go in the water for a few minutes and I don't want to be out here alone. And her,
That's good.
what is your mother doing? I said, she's crazy. Yeah. So I just think it's talking about it more and getting people not to be afraid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think the pandemic's had a lot to do with people being more interested because pool space is limited, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. People are kind of having to because the pool's not an option. They're like, well, I don't really like the idea of open water, but I'm gonna do it because I want to swim. And so yeah,
right.
Gets people out in the open. That's I appreciate that a lot though, that your response. I was thinking too just about like having the courage to push yourself. Like that's an interesting one to try to, you know, to encourage, because you do, I've heard that before too. It's like, you know, like, oh, it's the how do you do that when you tell people what you've accomplished, or when people say, no, I can't, when you're like, oh, come with me, you give them the invitation. But it's like, how do you get someone to just, it's like, just try it, you know, just see what it's like. So it's a tricky one.
Yeah, you know, someone asked me that, and I don't say, oh, if I can do it, you can do it too, because maybe some people can't swim, right?
Right.
If I can set a goal and achieve it, then you can set any goal you have and achieve it. And the only thing standing in your way is you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like I really believe, I've come to believe it over the last, 9 years. Like I don't play the victim. Right? Someone said it this morning, I read it, like, don't say I can't. Like there's a difference between I can't and I choose not to. Right? Like I choose not to get in the ocean with Susan and Bob in 40 degree water. I choose not to. Can I? I don't know, but it's an I choose not to, right?
Mm-hmm.
That way I don't have to say, oh, poor me.
Right.
Right? And also listening to people, because there are sometimes I probably would push myself beyond my capability today because there's still more training, right? So it's listening to people who have done more and done it well. And even if they failed, like, what did I learn from your failure?
Right. Right.
So just being willing to be open to listen.
Yeah. Listening,
No.
learning. Yep. What advice would you give to aspiring marathon swimmers?
Find people to swim with, right? I think Sue Phillips said it, find a mentor. Find a mentor. Like I say it with complete gratitude. Like I wouldn't be where I am without Bob, right? And he does it for the love of swimming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's asking the right questions and surrounding yourself with good people. Like there's a great group I swim with at the Seacoast, right? There's a great group I swim with at the pool. It's just find people to swim with, and find someone who takes some interest in your, in your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a good one. What marathon swimmers inspired you?
Oh my God, everybody. I mean, every single person inspires me, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I listen to everyone, Sarah Thomas inspires me, but I'm like, there's never a shot that I would ever do anything that she does, right? So Pat Gallant inspires me. Pat Gallant inspires me that she took 25 hours to swim in search of Memphre because she was going to finish. Right. And when I first started doing this, I reached out to her and we had a conversation. I said, I feel like I'm old. She's like, oh my God, you're a baby. That made me feel good. So that inspired me. Right. Caroline's crossing of Lake George, that inspired me. you know, every single swim, when it's a different venue, a different location, I just sit back and go, wow, what would that be like? Right. Because having done it a few times, I understand the training to work up to it. Right. So every time I mean, my bucket list, you know, Alyssa said it last week, like my bucket list keeps growing.
Yeah.
Swim, like, where do I want to swim? And, you know, what's a cool place to swim? So it just keeps growing, listening to all you guys.
Yeah. No shortage of desire for places to swim. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you for sharing your story, Cheryl.
Thanks.
I feel
Thanks
like
for
I have a
asking
lot
me.
more questions, but we're kind of coming up on time.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, we'll see you next year. Have a good holiday if you're a Christmas celebrator or whatever you might be celebrating.
Life.
Life.
Christmas.
Absolutely.
Have a happy holiday, everybody, whatever it is that you celebrate.
Happy Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday. Have a great
Happy
Tuesday.
Thank you,
Tuesday.
Shannon, for all year.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Shannon. These are
Excited to
great.
do it. See you
Happy
next
holidays,
year.
everybody.
Bye-bye.